Hey y'all, it's your Missniecytv and I'm here to do a review for Zatima Season 4, Episode 3. The episode picks up with Zach and Fatima in the bed, and Zach is trying to get down with Fatima, but she's sleeping. So she wakes up and she's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "No." It's like, "I actually have to go into the office. Preston called me in today." Fatima's like, "It's Saturday." Zach is like, "I know, but I have to get this done and stuff about a deal." Fatima's like, "Well, I planned this dinner for y'all and I really need you to help." Zach is like, "I know, you know I would be here if I could." Zach is like, "Actually, you need to be resting anyway, because this is the third night you fell asleep with makeup on after work. And this pregnancy is making you sound like a bear." So Fatima's like, "I don't even snore like that." Zach is like, "Yes, you do. You want to see?" So he pulls out his phone and lets her listen to the recording that you recorded of her snoring, and she's like, "That is not me." Zach is like, "Yes, it is." So Fatima's like, "You want to play that game?" She shows him a picture of him drooling while he's sleeping. They go back to talk about the dinner, and Zach is like, "Look, it's a potluck." Fatima's like, "I know." He's like, "Just let the people do the heavy lifting." Fatima's like, "I know, but also tell Preston and Bryce that I don't want raisins in my food either." Over at Rise Ventures, Zach is sitting there looking at some paperwork, and Bryce comes in and he's like, "We're still on for tonight?" Zach is like, "Yeah." Zach is like, "She's not really ready though." Bryce is like, "Should we reschedule?" Zach is like, "No, she'll be okay." Bryce is like, "Okay, because I'm thinking about bringing this red wine." Zach is like, "That's cool and all, but what are you bringing since it's a potluck? You know you're supposed to cook, right?" Bryce is like, "I didn't know that I was going to cook because black people don't really like other people's cooking." Zach is like, "Yeah, but that's only the case if we don't invite you to a potluck." Zach, "I don't know what you're talking about, because potluck or not, I'm still not eating other people's cooking." Then Bryce goes into the fact that he's exhausted because he was cooking for Angela all morning, and Zach thinks that is something that is. Bryce is like, "I was just over there because I had to show her something." Zach is like, "What you had to show her?" Bryce is like, "It's not that. I had to show her that her profile is cleaned out." Zach is like, "So you went over there and played Geek Squad but didn't get nothing in. But the other night she called me because she was scared and she called me for protection, so I went over there and slept on the couch." Zach is like, "She really playing you?" Bryce is like, "Oh no, I don't want to be played with." Zach is like, "You did all that and got nothing in return. What else does she have you doing? Because she's clearly playing you." Bryce is like, "She's not playing." He's like, "So what am I supposed to do?" Him and Zach do this reenactment of Zach being Bryce and Bryce being Angela, and Zach is like, "So I need you to tell her that I'm a man and I don't do all these sleepovers, and if you like me, you like me. Because if you don't, I got all these other hoes lined up." I just wanted to say that I was on Angela's side when it came to Bryce not knowing boundaries, but at the same time, girl, you can't be using this man, because the more you use him, it's... Of course, Bryce fails when it comes to his part of doing the reenactment, and he's supposed to say what Zach just told him to say, and he feels so bad. And then Zach has to redirect him, and then he says something about "get on my nuts," right? And Bryce tries to do that reenactment too. That's when Preston comes in and he hears Bryce tell Zach to get on his nuts, right? And Zach is like, "I'm not you anymore, and you're not Angela anymore. This reenactment is over." And Preston is like, "I don't know what I just walked in on, but I'm here to talk to y'all about some property, and I'm glad that both of y'all are here." Preston basically tells them that he has his property in Alpharetta that's a strip mall, and it's a commercial space, and it would be really good for them. But he's like, "I don't know how it's gonna go because both y'all are minorities, and you know they would try to do anything to keep us out." Preston's like, "We would need a higher overhead, and we would have to have so much capital." And Bryce is like, "Do we have that much capital?" Then they also had to explain to Bryce that racial discrimination does happen in real estate. Bryce wasn't grasping the point that racial discrimination happens everywhere, but it especially happened to real estate. Zach did tell them that they had enough capital to buy the space. Then Bryce asked Preston what he's bringing to the potluck, and Preston's like, "I'm bringing gumbo." Bryce is like, "You know how to make gumbo?" Preston's like, "I know how to throw down in the kitchen." And Zach is like, "Just make sure you don't put no raisins in it." Preston's like, "I've never heard of raisins being put in gumbo, so you don't have to worry." Bryce is like, "I like raisins." Zach is like, "I'm so glad you're not cooking." Bryce is like, "Can we bring dates? Because I'm thinking about bringing Angela, and you can be the one to tell her." He's like, "No, I'm not telling her, but I gotta call Fatima first to make sure it's okay." By the way, I do like the new renovation to Rise Ventures. It looks very nice, and I like how they put a lot of pictures of Zach and Fatima in Zach's office. Over at Zach and Fatima's coming in with some groceries, and she gets a call from Angela, and Angela's basically like, "What are you doing?" Fatima's like, "I just got announced from getting groceries." Angela's like, "Where's Zach? He's supposed to be helping." She's like, "I know, but he's at work." Angela's like, "You're pregnant and you're supposed to be resting." Fatima's like, "I know, but I really want to do something nice for them." Angela's like, "What you need me to do?" Fatima's like, "Really?" Angela's like, "Yeah. Plus, Bryce asked me to be his date to this thing anyway." Fatima's like, what? As Fatima and Angela are talking, Fatima gets a call from Zach, and Fatima lets Angela know that it is Zach right now, so she's gonna call her back. And Fatima gets on the phone and she's like, why didn't you tell me that Bryce was bringing Angela as a date? Zach is like, see, I was just calling you to tell you that. And I also told Bryce not to say anything until I asked you first. But clearly I got distracted by playing on my phone. I went to the bathroom and all this stuff. Zach is like, I don't see it as a big deal anyway since that's your girl already. Fatima's like, it's not, I'll just have to cook extra. She's like, is Preston bringing anybody? Zach is like, I don't think he's bringing a date. He didn't mention anything. Zach is still on the phone with Fatima, and that's when Preston walks up and he's like, Zach, what do you think about putting an arcade game in the office? Zach is like, oh, heck yeah, we should do that. Just as long as it's Street Fighter. I love playing Street Fighter, but I also love playing Mortal Kombat 2. That's one of my favorites. Over at Belinda's, we see Nate on the couch and he's clipping his toenails, and it's a whole bunch of toenail clippings and dirty socks and a dirty living room, and Belinda's like, what the heck is this? Belinda's like, oh no, you gotta get out. It's time for you to go back to your wife. It's been 3 days. I think it's her turn now. You need to go home. Nate is like, you know I can't go back there because if I do, Lori's gonna put her hands on me. We're gonna start arguing, and I don't want to go there. Belinda's like, I don't care about all that. You still need to go because you've been here too long. You've been dirtying up my house. You haven't been doing anything. Belinda, that's exactly what you get for trying to get in a relationship with Nate despite Zach and Fatima. And now you're learning the hard way. Nate has the nerve to tell Belinda that she's gonna regret kicking him out. Nate, no, she's not. She's gonna go back to a clean house. Like, why would she regret kicking out a hobo? Over at the barbershop, we see Nate come in there and he's talking to Tony and Tyrone, and he's telling them that Belinda kicked him out and he ain't got no place to go, and he asked Tony could he stay with him, and Tony's like, no, because I don't want you to be there. Nate also lets him know that Lori wants to work on the marriage, and they're encouraging him, like, that's good. Nate is like, no, it's not, because she's going to end up putting her hands on. Nate is like, she even tried to hit me with a baseball bat. Tyrone is like, there will be no woman in this world that will hit me with a baseball bat. You know what I would do? You need to go home and get rid of business. Tyrone is like, put it down on her real good so she won't even think about you hitting her because she'll be asleep. Tony's encouraging this because he doesn't really want Nate. He has the nerve to say, do you have a Viagra pill so I can be long and strong tonight? Tyrone is like, you don't need that with the earrings that you got. So Nate leaves and Tony is trying to leave the shop early and Tyrone is having a conversation with him like, are you okay? Tony is like, yeah, I'm alright. Tyrone is like, are you really okay? How are you holding up? Tony is like, I feel guilty. I really took a life. Tyrone is like, you shouldn't feel guilty. It was self-defense. It was on that boy and he came in here and robbed the barbershop. You were just defending yourself. Tyrone is like, look, I paid a lot of money for this to go away, so you shouldn't even be worried about it. Tony is like, I know, but it's still in my conscience. Tyrone is like, I don't want you to slip up and say something that you're not supposed to say, and we both end up. Tony is like, I would never do that. Tyrone is like, I know, but I just wanted to make sure. I promised your dad that I would take care of you, and I will continue to do that, but I just need you to be okay. Back over at Zach and Fatima, Zach comes in with some groceries, and Fatima's like, did you get all the seasonings that I asked for? Zach is like, I think so. Fatima's like, you didn't get the Sakatumi seasoning, the Cajun seasoning, which is actually supposed to be Slap Your Mama, but they couldn't use Slap Your Mama on the TV show. Then Zach tells Fatima that she doesn't need to be overworking herself and let the guests bring dinner, and he's like, I could actually order something. Fatima's like, that would be too much. Then they start talking about how Bryce is bringing Angela and how Angela's using Bryce, and Fatima's like, if anything, the guys are using her. Zach is like, I know you're not okay with your friend using these guys. Like, Zach is basically telling Fatima that he wants to get down to business in the bedroom with her, and Fatima's like, well, do all that, but we gotta get these chores done first, like laundry and trash. Zach is like, I do all of that. Fatima's like, when? That's when the doorbell rings, and it's Angela and Bryce, and Angela brings a dish of spaghetti, and that's when Zach is looking at Bryce, so are you gonna tell her? That's when Bryce speaks up, and he's like, Bryce is like, I bought the ingredients, you cooked them, that's how it goes. No suburban mom, and Angela's like, who the heck are you talking to? Bryce is like, I'm talking to you, but who are you talking to? I'm the man. Angela tells Fatima, you better get him. Fatima's like, Zach, you better get your friend. Then that's when the doorbell rings, and it's Preston and Deja. And Zach is like, hey, Preston, go home, Deja. Deja's like, don't you see me on a date? I'm here with Preston. Then that's when Fatima walks up and she's like, what are you doing in my house? Get out my house. Over in the hood, we see Jeremiah and he's shooting up, and I'm like, Jeremiah, you're gonna find yourself 6 feet under if you don't stop doing what you're doing. So as he's shooting up, he's having a hallucination about his mother, and he's calling for his mother, and then that's when this lady appears, and she's like, hi, baby. I don't know if it's an hallucination or somebody in the hood that just sees him. and she wants to help him get better. Either way this goes, somebody needs to find Jeremiah and put him inside a inpatient rehab somewhere that he can't get out. Let me know what you guys think about the episode. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on your bell notifications. Bye!